Hello and welcome everybody to GameGuru MAX live broadcast number 72, and I'm back. And my apologies for the crowbarred in pre-production placeholder video from last Wednesday. Couldn't be helped, but I'm back and I'm here for weeks and weeks and weeks to bore you with all my sultry tones, delving deep into the internal developments of GameGuru MAX development. And what I want to show you this week is what we did a little sneak peek of last Wednesday, which is terrain painting of grass. So I'm going to actually show you that in practice, and you'll be able to get that final UI complete version this Friday. If you're lucky enough to be a pre-order user, you'll be able to get on Friday evening probably a fully tested version where you can finally paint your grass, which basically completes the set. So I'm going to launch the software because I want to show you that and something else. But just before that, I just quickly remembered, just want to make sure that everyone can hear me fine before I carry on. Otherwise, I'm probably going to have to do the intro again. So, yes, indeed, everyone can hear me. Thank you very much, Prebin Synchro. Awesome. Let's run the software. Let me show you some stuff. Okay. So, there's lots of things I could do. But even though the functionality is complete, we're still working on the final grass assets. We want to fine-tune them with the biomes. But I can certainly show you how to get started. So on Friday, you'll be able to click your terrain tools. This is now a complete set. So you've actually got your terrain sculpting, your terrain painting, your tree editing, but now you've got this one, which allows you to enable grass. Now, as I mentioned, we're still fine-tuning the grass assets specifically so they blend well with the terrain textures. As you notice, there's a bit of a thing going on there. That's simply because, you know, we just took the first pieces of grass, which helps us do all the development work, but then it's a case of going back and making those final polishes. And I'll show you an example. If I select this one, which is the third grass, and I paint this, and I paint it into the distance, same technology, it is fading the grass off until there's no grass off into the great distance. But look how much that blends better. It almost just very subtly disappears until you don't really notice that transition from this lovely waving grass all the way to no grass in the distance. And that's what we're going to do with all the biomes. For anyone who's not tuned into all the other previous broadcasts, GameGuru MAX would allow you to start a level in a number of different environments. So Arctic, desert, rainforest, plains, other mountains, canyons, etc. And all the floor, a lot of it will be vegetation. You'll have different kinds of grasses, and so we're going to make sure that our grasses and our terrain textures blend nicely together. Leave that with us. But I want to show you some of the editing features that you can play with. So I've just put down some grass. I'm going to reduce my brush size a little bit. Yeah, that'll do. And what you can do, much like you could do with the GameGuru Classic, is you can select multiple grass types. So if I select 3, it will randomly choose between those 3 different types, like so. You see, so you can see the difference between the darker grass and the lighter grass. So you get to control that. And if you zoom right out, you can actually paint huge swathes of the terrain. And as you might expect with GameGuru MAX, completely threw away all our old technology. This is brand new grass rendering at the same level of obsession as how we rendered the trees. Remember the 400,000 trees that strafe off into the distance? Same idea with the grass. We figured out what is the fastest way to create grass in the engine, which also gives you the controller that you would need and the variety in the visuals and stuff, and that's what you're going to get this Friday. So as I say, you can paint little blobs, which is often what you'd find. You could switch off that grass completely and just go for like pure flowers. So you could do something like this. Patches over here. Of course, flowers will blend better with certain grasses than other grasses, but we're going to give you a large selection. I would recommend just focus on these first 7 and less towards these, which I think we're going to keep working on, just so you can have, like, you know, your very greens and then your yellows and then your browns. So look forward to more grass assets in the very near future. You've also got delete mode. So let's say I don't want this grass here. I can just go to delete, get rid of some grass like so, and that's exactly right. And also, if there's a third mode as well called restore mode. Now what does that do? Now let's say you've been messing around. Sorry about that. That's my busy lifestyle bleeping me in the background. The only people who can actually bleep me on Skype is my own team. So my own team doesn't even realise I'm actually in a live broadcast right now. So naughty, naughty team. So we've got restore mode, which reverts the grass to the original biome. So we've got, remember the grass we originally replaced? There you go. So you've actually got and the reason for that is that if you've actually created a biome and you like it, and then you've messed with the grass and it's like, oh, I want the original grass back. You don't have to go searching through all the grass palette. You can literally just select restore and restore it back, and then you've got it back to the way it was. And as I said, the default grasses for each biome will fit really nicely with all the rest of the terrain, so it's no bad thing. And of course, at any time you can go back to add whatever kind of grass you want. Sorry, get rid of the flowers. That's a slightly lighter grass. There's another grass over here, so that's a bit of a darker one. And as you can imagine, there's probably no end of grasses you might want for your different levels. And you know, we'll provide enough of them, but essentially we want to do it in such a way that it blends nicely with the terrain textures that come provided out of the box as well. And then obviously down the road, as we explore new biomes and new terrain textures, it would be one of our missions to make sure that the grasses that are created come matched to the terrain painting. So hopefully all that makes sense. So I'm just going to check the chat, and the reason this is a departure from my normal broadcast, because those little team bleeps might have been Rick screaming his head off that I need to show something. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the live chat and see if he's been harping on, and I'm not listening to him because I don't read the live chat during the broadcast. Daj is late to the party. You are forgiven. But nothing from Rick, so nothing else from the internal GameGuru team. So I guess we're all alright. Those were just random bleeps, I guess. So that's basically a quick look at the grass painting system. As I said, you'll be able to play with that in 2 days' time, so I hope you enjoy it. But just to put it into context, let's switch some trees on. So if I go to the trees, as you see, there's no trees by default, so I'm going to switch the trees on, so I've got some nice trees. And just so I start generally where I've been splatting flowers everywhere, I'm going to drop in a start marker. Now, you've probably also noticed a few things already. Look at this. These buttons have changed. Probably more on that in a future broadcast. I'm just checking out the clock, and I could talk a very long time about these, but they really tie into the work we're currently doing on the general logic and specific AI and behavior systems. So I think a whole broadcast could be dedicated to why we change these buttons around and what our plans are in terms of the shooter genre and how we control behaviors. And you should probably get that very quickly in a few weeks' time because we're working on it right now. But I just wanted to show you what the team was cracking on with all last week. So this is it, and you'll be able to get it. The other thing I want to show you, now this is off script and experimental, but hey, that's why you tune in, right? So I'm going to get a brand new level. This is also something that was actually had quite a priority on. So I decided to work on it immediately. So if we go to adding, say, a barrel. Now this you're familiar with. You can add in a barrel and add in another barrel and come in and add in a barrel. But remember the old smart system where you grab this barrel and then you drag it across, then you'd see a ghost version, and then you drop it down. But sometimes when you dragged an object and pushed it into the distance, it would disappear under the terrain or some crazy thing. Well, we're in the process of rewriting the object placement system just so it feels more intuitive. Like this is really intuitive. You can put a barrel up on top of things, put it on the terrain, you can put it inside buildings and all the rest of it. But as soon as you try to drag something away, it kind of go, oh, well, that's very strange. So what we've actually done now is this. So now when you grab an object, instead of getting the ghost, notice what it's doing? It's kind of using the system that you're already familiar with when you drag it in from the left. You see? So you've got this, and you can just drag that in there, then you can drag that and put it on there, then you can drag that and put it on there. So it's just as efficient, Yeah, like this. The only thing that isn't been done yet, and as I said, this is where the wires slightly hang out, but I kind of want to show you because it shows that the hard work we're doing in the background, is at the moment, in order to grab the barrel and keep it generally where it is, you're going to kind of click the bottom of the barrel, so it stays where it is. But if I click the top of the barrel, see how it moves over there? That was the reason why we abandoned this in the first place, because you click the top of the barrel and the barrel would move. If you click this barrel, it shoots off into the distance like, ugh. And so we came up with this idea of a ghost, so you can drag it across and it drops it. You know what the solution actually is? And it's really very simple. If I click the barrel at the top, all I do is virtually move my mouse pointer. You won't see it, but it'll virtually move it to the base position of the object. So that way, when I click it there, the barrel won't move. But yeah, it will act as if I drag that barrel off, it would act something like that, where it just drops down to the side, with the mouse pointer staying where it is. And isn't that super intuitive? Feedback in the comments below. But yeah, I think it'll work really well, and it's more consistent. There's less different modes to worry about, and we get rid of that weird ghost effect, which was nice enough, but I don't think it really cracked the case. And I think this one will, and it will give you a lot more versatility when it comes to placing objects, no matter where the camera is and what the object's doing. So check out that as well for Friday. That's one of my priorities. The other priorities you may have noticed when I clicked the test game to run around, or maybe I didn't click test game to run around, in which case I apologise, I did want to show you that, is that we're speeding up the test level. At the moment you'll notice it actually does a little bit of extra time to do terrain physics calculation. You didn't get that in previous builds because I tried to constrict how big that physics plane should be. And obviously that gave rise to the horrible, you have entered the end of the play area and then you just invisibly stop. So I sacrificed that fat speed of clicking test level in order to give you physics of the entire editable area of your terrain, which I think is much more acceptable from wandering around and looking at the landscape that you've got for your game. And now all that remains is for me to optimize the terrain physics, and the way I'm going to do that is bite the bullet and have it run on a backdrop thread. So effectively, as soon as you've chosen your terrain, and as soon as you've finished the last of your terrain sculpting, in the background the software gets to work calculating the physics, not interrupting your editing of whatever it is you're doing. So as soon as you get into the test level, your physics has already been baked and prepared, and there should be no wait time. That, my friends, is the theory. So we'll see in practice how that works, but I am pretty confident I can do that. And so test level will actually have no wait time for terrain physics and nav mesh. And there isn't really much else. Everything that's already in the level is already loaded. It's already ready for you. So I won't say instantaneous, but you shouldn't be waiting more than a couple of seconds when you click that button. That's the aim that we're aiming for. We want that extra level of polish, but create that experience that you're going to get in the early access. Really cool. So I'm going to go over to questions. I've checked the clock, 30 minutes in. That's a sufficient amount of gabbing from me. So let's see if there's any worthy questions or unworthy questions, either related to what I've been talking about or nothing to do whatsoever with GameGuru MAX. This is great. We've got all the can you hear me's. That's wonderful. Let's look for a first question. The first question is from Lastanzian Mapping Second. Oh, second. Presumably there was a first. Oh yeah, there it is. A question asked before anyone can confirm anyone can hear me. So let's go back a touch. Here it is. I have a question. Pre-ordered GameGuru MAX with my other account. I buy a Steam key, but only allows me to have GG MAX. But I download it. The Steam key will be given to me in the release date. Anyone who's a pre-order user, do not worry. We're going to give you a download version straight from our TGC website. We're also going to give you a key, a Steam key, so you can actually run it on Steam. You can run it in both places. If you pre-order twice, you'll have 2 downloads and 2 keys. It's up to you what you want to do. But we're going to treat our pre-order customers very well because you've helped us throughout the development, and we want to give a little bit back. So don't think it's either or. We're going to give you a download, which is an offline Steam version, and a Steam key, so you can run it through your Steam client. So fear not. And the backup question is how to have the latest update version of GG MAX as I am a pre-order user. Just tune in every Wednesday to find out what's going on, and then every Friday you will get a little notification next time you run GameGuru MAX, once you've installed it. It will say, oh, new version available. Click yes, I will take it to the auto updater and it will update all your version automatically with any of the changes that we've made, and then the next time you run GameGuru MAX you will have the latest version. So we've taken care of that as well. Okay, here's some questions. This is from Bellydos3D, part 1. What is it with these two-part questions? Okay, I know GGM uses DirectX normal maps, but I'd like to know how mesh normals are used. Is it a mic shape workflow or a non-mic space workflow? I don't know what mix space is, so sorry. That is well above my pay grade. How mesh normals are used? Very simply, the geometry, which of course contains vertex data, normals data, UV texture data, that's basically it. May optionally in the pre-processing before it runs the engine also contain tangent and binormal data, but all we have to provide is standard normal vector for each vertex of your mesh. So that's the high level version. DX normal maps, yeah, we use those, and there is generally two types. It's what's called the inverted green channel problem. But it's one of those. Can't exactly tell you which one because every time you flip it, you're looking at the universe from upside down. But we do have some tools that we are using internally. After this broadcast, just pop me a message, maybe in Discord, and I will point you to that tool, and that's the tool we use for a lot of our conversions to DDS texture format. So sorry for everybody else that got horribly technical, but hopefully that's the highlights, and then I can drive in with a bit more details. The part 2 of this question, does Max require tangents saved in the mesh like Unity, or does it require the mesh not to have tangents like Unreal? We do it both ways. If there's no tangent data, we generate it. And if there is tangent data, we pick that tangent data up and pass it into the shader. Now I say that because that's my last current knowledge. But as you know, we're using the Wicked engine. We've also got great help from Preben and Paul. And they definitely know more than me and may be screaming at the screen right now saying, "Lane, no, that's been changed now. Don't do that anymore." So yeah, again, let me do some research and I can give you the proper answer instead of just some general guess-wittering. New question, this is from Martin Oliver. Terrain is now higher polygon, but the brushes is pretty crude for the high polygon. Can we get noises brushes as well as larger brush size? No plans to add, I know what you mean, they're basically like brush stamps. So you can have brushes that are procedurally random, or some strange random calculation, or alpha masks that you can stamp in. None of that will be in the early access version. The only thing we're going to provide you with is brush size. So basically the size of the brush that you're going to sculpt your terrain with, and then there's the other option which lets you randomize the terrain at its current height. So what you see in the UI is what you're going to get for early access. That is by no means to say that's all we're going to provide, but that's what we're aiming for the early access version. And why? Because now we're entering this stage of development. We don't want to keep adding things. I like to think now, with the completion of the grass painting, we're kind of done with the rounding off of all the features that we're going to put into early access. What we're going to do now is polish, improvement, speeding up, optimization, stability, compatibility. We're going to make sure that what you see now on the screen, all the buttons you see, work really, really well, very intuitive, and leaves no stone unturned. The reason for that is we want a great product. We want to release a great product in March. And here's the thing, if we start adding features, we subtract the time we have to do that polish. So it's not like I don't want to do it, it's just I realise the priority now is for polish. And it's something that we've never really given ourselves the time. And this with GameGuru MAX, because we want it to be the best game we've ever made, and I think it is, we're giving ourselves that time for the polish. Very long answer to a very good question. Okay, next question, Nomad Soul. Does Max use tessellation? Nope. I know what you mean, it's GPU tessellation, so you can switch it on and take a low polygon mesh and it voomps into a high polygon mesh, maybe with some displacement information going in. We have that capability thanks to the Wicked engine, but we don't use it right now. There may be needs to use that in the future, but for the early access version, no tessellation. Loretta M, just wondering, will VR be coming in March? As I said, we're locking down all the features that we have today. If we then make all of the features that you see in this Friday's build super slick and polished, and they just do what they say on the tin, and we still find we have time, then perhaps we will start looking at another feature. But you know what? I'm an old hat at this, and I already know that we're going to need all this time just for the iteration and the testing and the polish. And I don't want to give myself the burden of adding new big chunks of functionality. And I want to do VR properly. VR is a great space to work in, and it requires a different approach in how games are created and then how they work for that end user. So let's just say for now, no, not for March. Okay, Zorgo33, will there be a feature in the model importer for changing the author to put parts of the texturing instead of Max automatic selection of model parts? In auto, it shows every single part, tons of them. Oh, that's a pretty advanced question, isn't it? I think if we're talking adding new features to the model importer, I would say no. Some of those things you've mentioned can be done in your own 3D modeler, and so you do all of the nitty gritty in your 3D modeler of choice, and then bring in your final example through the model importer. Model importer then changes it so it's fully compatible with GameGuru MAX. Then you can drop it into your level and use it. We want to get away from trying to create a whole 3D modeler in GameGuru MAX, or a whole sound editor in 3D Max, or a music editor in 3D Max, or you get the idea. There are already tools out there that have been working on it for years and do a very good job at it. Why do we have to reinvent the wheel when there's great tools out there? But certainly at the gate where it comes into GameGuru MAX and it was working really well in your modeler or on an asset store, that's where the model importer says, okay, I will take that and I will get it running in GameGuru MAX. But we're not in the business of having to edit to a fine degree the stuff that you're importing. Just things that, like settings, like is this static, is this dynamic, does this animate, what animations do you have, you know, what's the speed, what's the properties, things that relate to GameGuru MAX. So hopefully you get an idea of where we're going with the model importer. So just checking the clock, blasted past the 15-minute mark, blasted past the 20-minute mark, and in order to keep everyone sane and to stop me rambling for 18 hours, after 20 minutes, I usually answer 2 questions from people who've not asked a question before. And I absolutely promise to answer everybody's question because I reread the live chat. And anything I've missed, I will post in the GameGuru forums along with a recording of this broadcast after this broadcast is complete. It's the first thing I do when I click the stop record button. So let's see if there's any questions from people who've not asked anything yet. Here's this. This is a person called Turn. Question. How can I test my level in VR now? The button used to be there, but it's disappeared now. I have enabled the VR for developers and settings. Found no VR button. As I said, we have redirected all of our available energies into getting this software so it's super polished. And for that reason, we have shoved VR a little further away. And that button and any version of settings INI that could allow you to get the button back has been removed. So unfortunately, VR is basically off the plate now for a while. Let's just focus on getting this software great and polished and excellent. And then maybe when we've got that and there's a little bit of breathing room, boom, maybe I can enable it just for internal testing. And then I can tell you how to get at that. So at least you can run around in VR. But it's certainly not the priority for us at the moment. Scrolly, 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 looking for a question mark. And we're going to get to someone who's not asked a question yet. Oh, here we go. This is from SS. Question. Why not ACES filter on the engine? It's free and open source. Unity and Unreal use the filter and it greatly increases the quality. Why don't you use it? Because I don't know what it is. ACES filter. When I post this later in the GameGuru forums, can you post me a link to that so I can check it out? We do have plans to make some small tweaks to what we call now filter effects. It's a bit vague, with a big list of names that don't mean anything. So we have some design improvements. So that's a really cool feature and lets you see what you're going to get before you click it. And I hope you'll enjoy our future. And again, it's all about this iteration. Our first version was to give you filter effects. We used it, we implemented it and used it and thought, you know what, we can improve it. And that's really what the next couple of months are about. Let's look at what we got, see how we can polish it. Let's see how we can make it from a good game maker with generally all the parts in place to a great game maker. That's the goal. Daj apologises. I think it was Daj who was bleeping at me. You are forgiven again. Okay, those are the 2 questions. The rest of the questions I will answer later. I hope you've enjoyed this broadcast. I've certainly enjoyed talking. I always enjoy talking. So until next Wednesday at 4 p.m. GMT, I will be back with more internal development news, and I hope to see you then. So until then, I shall say goodbye.